Hello and welcome to the Chesapeake Today Show. It's your Executive Director, David Loop.
And Candace Montgomery, Director of Life Enrichment.
Candace, we are clicking here into the last week
Oh
of
my
May.
gosh, I know. How's that possible?
I don't know.
Where did May go?
Last week, Town Hall, delightful, went
Yes.
okay. It's just amazing into this time of year. And, you know, with Memorial Day, and now when you're watching this, it's possible you're seeing it after we
Right.
experience Memorial Day. It's like that bookmark of the beginning of summer.
It is. It's my favorite time of the year where it's just that excitement where the weather is nice and warm and you can just spend evenings outside. I love it. It's my happy time of the year.
That is great.
Yes, it's
So,
exciting.
reflecting back, trying to think, last week, I know it was sort of a busy blur for me because, you know, with Town Hall and other things happening, really getting all these big projects queued up. And again, more and more information, but, you know, I think Town Hall summarized that well. Anything you want to reflect on that we've recently experienced?
Well, this is more personal, but my son turned 6 last Tuesday. So I was off that day, but I made him go to school. Is that fair?
That's interesting. You
Well, he
must
had-
have been prepping. You
Well,
must have been
he
doing
had testing at school, so I was originally going to pull him out, but
Yeah.
then they were doing testing, which is like testing in kindergarten.
Yeah.
So ended up going to his school and did a little lunch thing and brought donuts for his class. So I'm not sure his teacher was appreciative for the extra sugar high the kids would have been on later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was kind of a big
6
thing.
years. So you and Marcus reflect on that, saying, "Oh my gosh, it flies."
It does fly. I mean, people tell you that, you know, of like, oh, you know, it's going to go by so fast before you know it. And then Facebook does these things where it pops up memories, you know, so I'm seeing, especially, you know, last week with his birthday, I'm seeing all these baby pictures pop up. And I'm like, it's amazing how kids can change so much in just a few years, personalities, features, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I had my son-in-law's birthday was last week, and I actually, in this office, I was moving around some photos, and I came across, as you often hide photos behind,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
and I came across one of my daughter and son-in-law with Morgan when she was 1.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, of course, my son-in-law, you know, much younger man,
Right.
because that was 17 years ago, because
change,
Morgan
too.
is now 18 years old, graduating
Right.
from high school.
Oh, my gosh.
So I had to take a picture of it and said, "Happy birthday, young man. You looked a
Yes.
little different here."
Right.
And he got a kick out of
Oh,
it.
my
But he
goodness.
also quickly saw a picture of his oldest rather, now graduating high school. So think about that. She's 18. I was just compartmentalizing, you know, with Clint, 6 years, and all of a sudden he'll be 12, and then
I
we'll be
know.
18. I mean, you start thinking in that way.
And the moodiness has already started, so don't even get me started. As soon as he's turned 6, it's been I'm like, is this a teenager trapped in a small person's body? Where did this mood come from? Well, I don't know if it's like, I was reading up on kind of things that change when you turn 6, and it is a little bit more of you realize your actions have consequences, and you're more confident to say things. I'm like, where did this mouth come from? What is happening?
Yeah.
So it is interesting to see the shifts.
And it's tough with kids because, you know, how you hold the line and bring them to the best level. And then you got first grade in front of you.
Yes.
But his kindergarten, has it been a full day experience?
Oh, that's the thing that I think has contributed so much to kids these days in general. They're exposed to so much. They do half of their work on an iPad. They do math and they do reading. They do all kinds of things they switch classes in kindergarten. Yes. When I was in kindergarten, there was naps. There's no nap.
Yeah.
It's a full day.
Wow.
Art, history, PE, library. And they switch classes for all of it, which is like, oh my gosh.
In
Like,
kindergarten. Wow.
yeah.
Well,
It's crazy. And in a way, it's good. I mean,
It
it
is.
prepares them,
Yeah.
but it's definitely interesting just to see how things have changed, even from when I went to school. Like, wow, they have a lot more responsibility, I would say.
yeah,
So it's interesting.
good. Well,
But-
glad it was a good birthday celebration.
Oh, yeah.
Did he have a favorite food or cake or something for his birthday?
Well, we did a laser tag party, and it was actually his first time playing laser tag. We had originally planned to go to the Putt Putt place that's on Yorktown. I don't know if you've seen that. Putt around, whatever it's called. But it rained that day, so they said, well, we do have laser tag as an indoor activity. Oh my gosh, like, I think I had the best time. I hadn't played laser tag since high school. Oh my goodness, a workout, you're sweating in there, and those kids, though, they are so naturally good at games like that.
Yeah.
Things that feel like a video game. I'm like, why are these kids like outrunning me? This is crazy, hiding in spots. But
Yeah.
so he had a great party with pizza and all the things that kids love.
Good.
So yeah, it was good.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for sharing. I know
Of
residents are
course.
reminiscing all the things, how we
I
change
know.
with celebrations and all
Yes.
good.
Yes.
So we, with Memorial Day, no, Chef Bruce, nice buffet. So clear on the plans. We, a simple but Memorial Day service, trying to keep a little bit of a tradition. So
Sure.
that was something that was either experienced or you'll see, probably experienced with when this first airs.
Most definitely.
So that happening, and then I guess we're counting down a few more days of May and then June.
Oh, and then June is here. So we do have a few more days if you want me to kind of jump in,
Please.
because we do have some things happening this week. So as we said, you may be seeing this when it's already Memorial Day, so you kind of recapped on some of the things that we have. And then moving into the 28th, so Tuesday, we do have our regular shopping trip. And I want to make note of this because this is something that came about from our resident breakfast, new resident breakfast. So new residents, existing residents who've lived here a while may not know this either, but when you see regular shopping trips on the calendar, these are places where you can pick up your pharmacy if you have, prescriptions that you need filled, because we are going to Kroger. We also will stop by the Food Lion that's here. So if you have a particular need, please just sign up for this trip and you can get on the bus, and the bus driver goes to multiple places. So just wanted to put that out there. We featured that in the connection as well, just so folks are aware that that isn't a nice transportation to have that offered if you don't particularly want to be able to go out on your own. So that is Tuesday if you're interested in coming to that. So leaving at 1:30 from the Hampton entrance. This is going to be really interesting. So at 2 o'clock, we have a guest lecturer here as part of our Chesapeake University. So it's going to be African American Medal of Honor recipients and the integration of the U.S. Navy. So it's going to be a fascinating lecture, just exploring that a little bit. So 2 o'clock in the Chesapeake Room. We do have our jazz singer that evening. So Vinnie Knight is going to be in the Chesapeake Room at 7 p.m. I know she's quickly become a fan favorite. And then on Wednesday, we have the Swift Creek Mill Theater. So this is our theater trip that's it's a good almost 2 hours away. So it's somewhat of a day trip. Leaving at 10:45 a.m. and they are presenting Run for Your Wife. Not sure what that's about, but it sounds very interesting. And then that evening, this has been very popular, so our rabbi lectures. He's got another one at 7 p.m., and this one is going to be on Buddhism and Hinduism. So it should be fascinating.
And that's the 29th?
The 29th, yep, 7 p.m. in the Chesapeake Room. And I know those have been a packed room, well received, so I'm glad we've been able to foster that relationship with him outside of just the Seder dinners as well. And then that Thursday, we have we have our Catholic prayer service, so our thing that we do monthly here at 9:30 a.m. in the Harbor Room. And then we do have our lunch break walking group at 12:30, leaving from the community center entrance. And then keeping with that same fitness theme, on Friday, Crystal has brought back water volleyball, which should be interesting. I know we haven't had that on the calendar for a while, so playing at 9:30 a.m. And it's actually going to be a reoccurring last Friday of the month that she's going to leave there. So a standing water volleyball time where she is encouraging folks, if they want to come and watch just for the fun of it, there'll be some chairs on the pool deck for that as well. And then Miss Platzman has her 10 a.m. decorative painting class in the Creative Arts Studio. Kind of rounds out our week.
Very nice. Good weekend. Takes us to the 31st at the end of the week, then Saturday with the
This is the first, I know.
Thursday, I'm going to be traveling to Ohio and catching up with adult children.
Good.
And we're going to be on Friday the 31st witnessing granddaughter Morgan compete in her 4th state track and field championships in Ohio. And I think she's favored to win several events.
Good.
And it could be her 4th state championship. From freshman all the way to senior year, so that will be fun to see all of them.
Yeah.
And I think that Saturday then she's actually competing in Columbus, Ohio, throwing the hammer, which will be more of a collegiate and then in her future an Olympic event.
Wow.
So it'll be fascinating to see how she does that.
Yeah.
And she's throwing with older women and doing that, really breaking from one day state high school championships, the next day really collegiate athlete.
That's fascinating. So she is thinking of kind of continuing on that pathway to see where it
Yeah.
takes her.
Yeah, with the full ride to
Wow.
Ohio State, she obviously now has 4 years of scholarship, and maybe doing some international travel this summer.
Wow, good for
And,
her.
so it'll be fascinating to catch up and see granddaughters. children everywhere.
Definitely. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, that's exciting.
Yeah,
For
so,
sure.
So that would be my end of the month.
Yeah.
So good there.
Mhm.
I've just, from the resident standpoint, just as we continue, all the programming things that you and Isaiah and your team does is wonderful. Bruce and his team really trying to focus on those little things that make a difference to all the residents, those temperatures and consistency. Soon we're going to be interviewing with Andy Estes.
Yeah.
And you'll meet him, and Andy's is really taking some nice steps with improving things, listening, fixing things. And I think it's a level of confidence residents will feel very good about.
Most definitely.
So those things happening, and then you got these big projects looming.
Yeah.
So it will be a very busy, fascinating. So many things we still have to take care of. Yet at the same time, we got all this stuff between now and the end of the year.
I know.
And I appreciate residents' patience, but I appreciate just the energy, commitment, resolve of team members.
Oh, sure.
Because you're still running your programs, you're doing your stuff. Your partners in the other high levels here doing their activities. You're going to have a lot of shifting.
Oh, sure.
And it just takes everyone working together, and sometimes we just need to acknowledge that because it really makes a difference.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time, though. It's a lot of good
Yeah.
stuff happening.
And I think sometimes I think we have to pinch ourselves, and I've often said throughout my career, you got to stop. Excuse me, stop and smell the roses, and just important to do.
Yeah, it can be hard sometimes, but it is important. Yeah, it's awesome.
So, with that being said, Memorial Day, the only thing I haven't asked recently, how is puppy number 2 assimilating?
Indy, he's doing really good, but I tell you what, residents are going to see him soon when I bring him in for Golden Hour with Bucky, which I guess I need to say Golden Hour with Bucky and Indy. He's gotten big. I think he's going to get bigger than Bucky. But he's doing good. He has a completely different personality than Bucky, which is hilarious. He talks all the time. I mean, 5 a.m., he is talking beside the bed to either my husband or myself, like, get up, I'm ready to eat. He won't even go outside to use the restroom until he's eaten his breakfast. I'm like, go potty, and he's at the door where the food is kept of feed me first and then I'll do my business.
Yeah.
So it's very funny of how his personality is just so different.
Last week at our Rotary meeting, we had a speaker, German descent, but she's apparently one of the most renowned trainers in this area. And she spoke to our Rotary Club about how she goes about training.
Yeah.
And she says her job is she's not a dog trainer, she's a people trainer.
Oh,
She trains the owners how to. And it was most interesting. She talked very candidly about those that use different types of harnesses and collars and even the electric shock things.
Sure.
How she goes about it. And I think all the Rotarians, whether we had dogs or not, were just like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'm talking to Betsy Fink, one of our
yeah.
Rotarian friends,
Yeah.
and saying, so how does Martin, her husband, is a vet. Some of you may have known from the Hilton Village area.
Oh, wow.
So he's a vet, and she just said to him, Martin thinks she's one of the best in the area.
Wow.
So it was really
that's
fascinating
good.
to learn that. So it was just some of the simple things that she said, and even common sense about how you want to approach as a dog, and even when it's not yours. And it was good for me to hear.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of truth to training the owners, because I think there's similarities with that with parents too. Like sometimes we think, why is my kid doing this? But a lot of times the mirror comes back to the parent.
It is.
So it's just funny
it
how
made so much sense.
Yeah.
Everything she said, and it just you think of the dog whisperers, etc. It's like, I think she's got it figured out.
we overthink things, we complicate things. So that's interesting.
All right. Well, with Indy, look forward to seeing that
Yes.
growing.
He's dark too, because he's a red golden, so his color has come in. So it's fun. It's fun to watch.
Good.
Yeah.
Last week, my sister, her French bulldog, had 5 puppies.
Oh my gosh.
And so all 5 were very healthy and doing it. And that little one, she had one that had natural, this, typically cesarean, and this one had to have cesarean.
Oh wow.
But 5 little puppies and just growing, and that's her love.
Yeah.
So between her and her son and daughter, they all have them.
Wow.
And they just take care of it. They're good
Yeah.
quality. And I don't even think they call themselves breeders, but
Right.
the fact that they will sell this litter.
Mhm.
But those are interesting little ugly creatures.
Right.
And,
Right. You know,
yeah.
somebody's got to love them, you
yeah,
know.
and she gets all the different color spectrum. And
Wow.
I think of her years of raising everything from Bull Mastiff to Rottweilers
Oh my goodness.
to Chihuahuas to
Whoa.
Standard Poodles to French Bulldogs to Shar-Peis.
Oh my
That's what I've
gosh.
seen her do in her life.
Wow.
So she knows animals. And
Yeah, she's picked some interesting breeds too.
Yeah.
Yeah, not all can be golden retrievers.
right.
You know,
That's
they
right.
can't all be beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
Wow.
fine. Well, thank you for enjoying a little bit of this
Mm-hmm.
chit chat, and again, enjoy this Memorial Day week in total. The last few days of May. Stay tuned. Listen
Mm-hmm.
to a special interview with Andy Estes, our new director of Buildings and Grounds. I know you'll be most pleased to hear about his background and his experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just say thank you for being with us today.
I'll see you next time.
Hello, welcome back to the second part of the Chesapeake Today Show. We've got a wonderful interview today, an actual conversation with our newest director, Andy Estes, our director of Buildings and Grounds. Andy, welcome to the show today.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, Andy, amazing. We were just acknowledging 5 weeks that you've now been here at the Chesapeake, but I guess that sort of pales in comparison to how long you've actually been coming to this address. Tell us more about your history and over time.
Sure, it's an interesting journey. My mother and my grandmother both lived here. My grandmother lived here when it was just the Hampton building, and all the extensions have been built since then. And then my mother lived here until just 2021. And so I have been in and out of this facility, this building, for many years, seen many changes, but have always been impressed by the upkeep, the maintenance, and the cleanliness of the building. It's been very impressive.
Good. So your mother, if I remember, Faye Estes, and then she remarried later in life. Is that correct?
Yeah, she met someone here
Okay.
and married Blandy Haynes.
Andy Haynes. So some of the residents, some of our longtime residents will recognize that. Perhaps remember your mother as well, because I know she moved through the continuum and passed a couple years back.
Yes.
Okay. Well, fine. So with hearing both grandmother and mother from this area, so I assume your roots, were they all born in this area?
Well, I grew up in grade school in this area. I was born in North Carolina.
Okay.
But we moved here very early, and so from kindergarten till about 8th grade, we lived in the Hampton Roads area. My father was a pastor of a couple of churches here in the area, and so you could say for the most part, raised here for the most part until high school.
So go ahead. Your father's full name is?
Robert Estes, or Bob. People called him Bob.
Bob. And do you recall a couple of his charges? What churches was he serving?
We served at Orchid Avenue Baptist Church before it became Orchid Baptist Church when they moved further out in the city. And then he also served at Hampton. It is Bethel Baptist Church when it was a little white building on the side of the road. But he was the pastor when they moved across the road, Big Bethel Road, I think it is, and they built their new facility across the road there. So, but I was probably five or 6 years old when that occurred.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of the residents watching will say they remember it as a teenager, as a young adult, that they may have seen it and be a part of that.
Yes.
Fascinating. Well, good to get those connections. So high school years, where were you living then?
In Northern Virginia.
Okay.
In Prince William County.
Okay.
Yes.
So had your father then moved and accepted a church there, or?
Yes, just outside of Quantico Marine Base. Yes.
Okay.
So we were there for about 4 or 5 years.
Alrighty. So from that high school experience, how did your career begin, and what pathway did you navigate?
Well, it's really interesting because it headed in one direction, and then by necessity had to change. but I was a pastor early on and served in a couple of churches, and went to seminary. Started my own HVAC business in seminary, and then I injured my back, and so that caused me to, one, leave school and sell my business, but the whole mechanical systems and interest in pursuing that as a career began at that point. And so I have about 35 to 40 years experience in major mechanical, HVAC work, primarily commercial, but some residential. And it extends everything from kitchen equipment to laundry equipment. Out of that 35 to 40 years, 25 of those years were with Marriott International, where I served as a facilities engineer, and then have ended up here, which I'm so thankful for.
Yeah. So I have to go back to the seminary because I think this is the first I'm hearing of this.
Yes.
How many years did you do that for?
So the whole ministry years was probably for about 7 years total.
Yeah.
From beginning to end.
So I was just having this visions of you that doing that, starting an HVAC company, thinking, well, I can pray for and take care of your air conditioning and heating,
Right,
and just
right.
getting it to work. So wow, then we could come up with all types of marketing terms
Right.
to help that very important piece. Well, that's wonderful. So you, I guess now I have to be more attentive because I've got a professional around me. So when I attempt to pray before a meeting or whatever, I'm going to have to really be on my game because if not, you can tutor me, help me along the way on those things. Yeah, so real fine. So an extraordinary career then. A lot of the years then with Marriott, where were you based out of then? What part of the country were you serving?
I lived in northern Delaware, and I served most of my time in the Philadelphia market, expanded into the Maryland market where I had a responsibility of over, at that point, about 34 hotels. And then I was promoted to the corporate engineering department, where I oversaw training and recruiting for our discipline, for Marriott's discipline worldwide. And so developed programs, rolled them out, and led specific programs for the last 10 years of my career there.
I remember, just one that I was extraordinarily impressed with when we first met was that training that you did where franchise holders, people who have Marriott properties, would be able to send their top person to your training program
Yes.
for a significant fee.
Yes.
But they were really bringing themselves to get to a higher level of training to best operate their motel properties.
Exactly.
So a little bit more about that. How long was that training period? And then I'll lead into the question, what from that might be deliverable here
Sure.
to help grow our team? So what was that training period scope?
So that particular initiative was called the Advanced Engineering Program. The training itself lasted from December of the end of a particular year, and it ran all the way until July of the next year. And so it was around 8 months of training. Most of the work was done at the site of where the engineer was hired and where they were working. But we had 3 week-long face-to-face meetings, one at the beginning, which was a kickoff, one in the middle, and then one at the end, which was our capstone meeting. But for 5 days, we brought everybody together and did some more intensive training around retro commissioning, continual commissioning of equipment, how to maintain property, building systems, mechanical systems, to where they are, to get them to where they were designed to work. Over time, equipment gets neglected and so forth, and they start to break down inefficiencies, and we trained our leaders to notice what to look for, how to diagnose issues, and to recommission the equipment that they already had on property.
Well, when I hear you describe that, when I think about, a Marriott property, from a resident standpoint, so many parallels.
Right.
Their residences, their places where people sleep and eat. You have temperatures, you have hot water, you have domestic water, you've got all those things. You've got common areas that are, quite honestly, hopefully as lovely as what we have here. The only thing that's a little different is where we may have a lot of individual home kitchens. You clearly had experience with very broad and large kitchen and laundries.
Correct.
But it's, again, so similar, which is what I think was so intrigued with you being able to join us and knowing what you'd be bringing to our organization to make us better. So you've now had a chance over the last few weeks to get caught up with some of the team members. Some folks, some of our maintenance techs longer, some of our other team and support in other buildings and grounds department longer, and some very new people. What's your hopes and dreams for them and advancing and raising the bar?
Sure. What I think to begin with is just the instituting of a very consistent and professional preventive maintenance system. Right now, most, if any, of the preventive maintenance that is done by outside contractors. So if we can get our current maintenance staff trained and skilled in order to do that work, it will not only save us cost of bringing in a contractor, but it will also save us in energy cost, efficiencies, and things of that nature. And so anything that we can learn from how to PM kitchen equipment, ice machines, and HVAC systems, plumbing systems, and things of that nature will overall benefit both the workers, because their skill level will increase, and that will benefit them for their careers. It'll also benefit the residents here, because the downtime of equipment will be fewer and less, and then the electric bill and the gas bill will be smaller moving forward.
Well, I'm sure every resident listening to it's music to their ears, because again, this is so important that we take care of their home, take care of this important asset, and your quality of knowledge and training will make huge bounds. I know that you'd also had some oversight in your career with some of the large renovations in hotels. So how does that sort of prepare you for, we call it the 4B project and 4E here, so a lot happening here, and how does that all parallel with some of your past experience?
Well, it parallels in a few ways. One is just from a project management standpoint and understanding the flow of work and how it impacts a particular section of a building and the people that live in that section of the building, or in a hotel it would be people that were occupying those rooms and that kind of thing. And then how the standards or the scope of work needs to be agreed upon so that the work can flow smoothly, taking on one section at a time, always communicating with the guests and with the residents about what's coming, what they can look forward to. They may hear a little bit of extra noise during the day sometimes, but just being able to work through those processes to understand and help the residents understand how everything is going to benefit them and their quality of life.
Yeah. When I think about our renovations to date, our residents have been so supportive and tolerant, understanding, because some of them have seen clearly work happening in the commons area. Some have seen work up and down their corridors. Last year when we replaced all the locks and the work took that to accomplish. We have to sort of be an intriguing question. Which resident experienced all that independent as now moving into first or third floor assisted living, and they're going to see it again?
Right.
We're going to have to give them some type of an award that they're the renovation troopers.
Right.
And very likely that it will be true. So having your background, having your experience, $5.4 million is a lot of work happening. And again, I feel very confident with your support and your help in guiding us through this, it will go very well. So exciting there. I think that's a good flavor for the residents and about, the work, and just so exciting what you're bringing to us. Have to ask a question about resident and relationship, because I've often thought two of the most popular people is the chef, who residents love to bend their ear, and you're probably real close to that, because as soon as Andy, Director of Building and Grounds, because all residents want their home, want their landscaping, want whatever. So how has that relationship been with residents and some of your first experiences?
Well, it's been very positive from everything that all the conversations that I've had. I've had opportunity to have side conversations with individuals about landscaping issues and working through them with those individuals and with others that might have been impacted by those decisions, and then gaining consensus from the residents on what is the best course of action. And dealing with some what you might call ongoing issues with a couple of residents, and working with them more closely, trying to determine what exactly is happening with their particular issue. Spending time with them, getting to know them, I think is a big part of the service that we provide, even in maintenance. That we're not just coming in to fix something, but we want to understand them, how they view the problem, how it's impacting them, and then to communicate as much as possible so that they know not only what we're doing while we're there, but also what the next steps are going to be and what they can anticipate. And those types of conversations have been well received.
Oh, I would echo that. I mean, not only well received, I think just revered. You have done a phenomenal job of, I think earlier today I was saying, you're almost like becoming our forensics. You're figuring out why is it not right, what will it take to correct it right, doing it properly, and having that skill set, your wisdom and experience to really put your finger on it. And if not, you just are demonstrating such wonderful consistency in striving to find that best solution for that resident. Have to tell a story. As you were assisting one resident, just making sure that the washer and dryer is working to its best. If I remember, you even brought a couple pieces of linen from your own home, towel, sheet, whatever, that you said, let me put my own through the machine. Did so, was able to illustrate how it came through. And that's sort of beyond the call, but residents need to know things like that are happening, and really appreciate your fortitude in getting things right.
And the importance of that particular situation was, I told her this, that I didn't want her to continue to wash her clothing that she thought was being damaged. I said, don't wash your things anymore. Let me bring something from home, and let's put this through a couple of cycles and see what happens. And she was very, very happy with that process.
Good. Well, I hope you residents realize what a gift it is to have him in that capacity and role. All right, you mentioned home. Your wife, Angie.
Yes.
Where did the two of you meet, and what family do you have?
We met in Dallas, and where my wife grew up. She did not leave home until she married me. So it was, growing up in the same house all of her life, and then she married me, and she moved out. So, and that was in 1986, I think, when we got married.
Yeah.
And we have 4 daughters, and 3 of them live in Pennsylvania, and 1 is still at home, just graduated from high school, and we have 5 grandchildren.
Fantastic. The 3 in Pennsylvania, how come they all gravitated there?
Well, 1 gravitated there because she worked at a summer Christian camp, and she met a young man at that camp, and they got married, and he was from that area, and so she lives there now. One of my daughters went to Messiah College, which is just outside of Harrisburg, and so she just finished her master's degree, actually, and graduated about 2 weeks ago.
And what degree?
Master's degree in family counseling.
Very nice. Okay. Yeah. And then the 3rd daughter in Pennsylvania?
Actually, I misspoke. There's 2 in Pennsylvania, 1 in Charlotte.
Okay.
So the 3rd one is in Charlotte, and she met a young man from when we lived in Delaware, and then his job took him to Charlotte. So they've been there for about 4 years, I think.
Well, keeping track of children as they progress, advance, I have to keep saying to myself, wait, what states am I now in?
Right.
And this coming week, I'll have a chance to visit with some of them, and hopefully they'll come back. We'll have some rendezvous from those in different locations, so all good. Well, with you and Angie having those 4 daughters and 1, it sounds like 2 graduations.
Yes.
Both high school and a master's degree, so congratulations.
Thank you.
That's impressive to guide young women into that level of competency and where they're heading, so that's wonderful. So when you're not working, you and Angie, you alone, what do you enjoy doing? What are some hobbies or interests that you have?
Well, I like to spend time with my wife. We enjoy walking. We enjoy road trips. We really like taking road trips, seeing new things, visiting new places, and it doesn't have to be extravagant. It could just be just somewhere that we've never gone before, and visiting those types of places and just being together. I also like to read, quite a bit of that, and spending time with what I have left with my last daughter at home before she leaves in about, probably in about a year. She's going to work for a year and then
Okay.
planning on going to college, but we'll see
Good.
how
Okay.
that works out.
Great. Well, I know right before you started working here, you and Angie were on a pretty significant trip. Why don't you tell us a little more about that experience?
Yes, I've been fascinated with the Old West, and actually 3 years ago we took a trip to Dodge City, Kansas, and that was really an amazing trip for us. So we decided to go to Wyoming this past about a month or two ago, and so we took a road trip, and it took us 3 days to get there to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Spent 3 days there and 2 days of snow, and 1 day of very nice temperatures, melting snow, but it was just a beautiful place that we had never been before. And then after 3 days staying there, it took us 3 days to get home, and just enjoyed the time.
Yeah, very nice. Well, I think for residents who've made those journeys across the country, fond memories. It's one that I've not done as far as that road trip, hitting national parks, hitting picturesque areas like that. I know quite a few of my relatives' families have been to Jackson Hole. When you said that, I had to think back to the story. I was at Jackson Hole, but it was actually a name of a dive site in the Red Sea outside of Sharm el-Sheikh. And it was named that because of the natural beauty that I saw under the water. I don't know who called it Jackson Hole, but I went to that one, but I've never been to the real one.
Okay.
So I have to think through that. Wow, what an experience.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's a wonderful road trip, and you'll come to realize, as I've done in sharing with residents trips, if you happen to take any pictures and you ever put one together about the Old West, Dodge City, any of that, the residents would love to experience it. So if you ever want to do a little travel log, as we call them, between Candace and or Al Kunkel, don't be surprised if you're not recruited.
Okay.
But it's fun to
Okay,
do. Residents
great.
just love to relive and hearing their stories about where they've traveled and what they've done, and sometimes the same pathways that I've taken some of my trips, they have too, and you may find the same with yours.
Right.
So, good. So, appreciate hearing all about your background, your experience. Just want to say, just personally, it's great having you here.
Yeah.
And it's been a joy for me for the last 5 weeks just witnessing your work and all that you're doing, and just the connections you're making, and not just the person you are, but that connection with your mother and grandmother being here. It just makes it really special. So I hope it's fulfilling for you for years to come, and you realize what a difference you're making for our residents and all of us.
Well, I'm looking forward to the time ahead and things progressing, and just the positive work that's going to be coming. I'm just looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Well, Andy, thanks for being with us to stay on
Thank you.
our show, and we'll look forward to the next week that we'll be back with you. But thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.